This week I'm sharing 5 things that have had a huge impact on me as a filmmaker, but also as a person. So I just want to start by saying that this video has not been sponsored by anyone. This is just a 100% honest list of things that have inspired me recently. Okay, so number 5 is a YouTube video where a professional editor walks you through how he's editing a scene. And the cool thing about it is that he takes this one scene and completely changes things. He rearranges things, removes things, and shows you how much of a difference you can make from the beginning and after, introducing lots of conflict into the scene. Now, watching this helped me experience my favourite part of learning about filmmaking, which is when you start to realise that there is another layer, a deeper layer beyond whatever you've been doing. Next up at number 4 is one of those time-wasting games you play on your phone. This one is quite bold in that it takes some of the ideas from Candy Crush or Farmville back in the day, but just removes any trace of skill. Basically, the longer you play the game, or even just leave the game installed on your phone, the more virtual money you will get. And then with that virtual money, you can spend it in order to get more money. But I see this game as a kind of satirical piece of art. Every time you open the app, you get a Bible verse. And that's a strange way to start a game that is all about acquiring as much money as possible. But I think that's the thing. As you get more money, as you go from where $1 million seems like a lot, and then straight after that, 10 million, I think this game is the best example I've seen of how money doesn't buy happiness. How if you're going to chase money, then you'll be chasing forever. You will never catch up. Every time I open that app, I'm reminded just how easy it is to fall down that slippery slope into acquiring more and more stuff. And I think that's quite a cool message for an app to have. Okay, so number 3 is an absolute little gem of a podcast. Everything I've heard about the film industry is that people are shallow, people are fake, and people are selfish. But this podcast is just the absolute opposite of that. It gives me so much optimism for going into filmmaking. Basically, they have a casual chat with an industry professional and they talk about a certain aspect of filmmaking. But I think it's the fact that they are honest about the things they're struggling with. And they're not just talking about chasing success all the time. They talk about the stuff that matters. I often listen to it when I'm going out for a run, and honestly there have been many occasions where I have extended the length of my run so that I can continue listening to the rest of the podcast. It's really good stuff, and I always come away feeling so encouraged and so inspired and ready to make stuff. If you're going to check it out, I'd recommend that you start with episode 2. That's a good one. At number 2 is a piece of music called The Sailor's Bonnet. Now, I find it hard to put into words what I like about a piece of music, particularly when it's instrumental like this one, but consider this. I got myself a cheap violin and have started trying to teach myself to play because of this song alone. But beyond that, I don't really have the words to express why that music is really special. I just recommend that you check it out, and I'll put it in the description along with all the other of the 5 things that I've recommended. So for number 1, we have the comic strip Calvin and Hobbes. Now, it's classed as comedy, but like most good jokes, there's a lot of truth behind it. Calvin is this kid who's always getting in trouble at school and has bad grades, and yet he's clearly very intelligent, philosophical even. And of course he has the richest imagination, the kind of imagination that only children can really have. And as you read more, you get to really appreciate the strong friendship that he has with his tiger, so much so that you almost forget that he's an imaginary friend, which gives it this kind of sad undertone. Just the amount that Bill Watterson can communicate through a single drawing of a face expression, or just the complexity of these jokes in such a short space of time of just a few little panes of drawings. It's so minimalistic, and yet I find it to be just such a gold mine. I know most people see it as just kind of casual reading in a newspaper once a week, but for me, honestly, I consider it to be a masterpiece. So I guess the reason I shared this list was to say that yes, you can study Stanley Kubrick films and Hitchcock films, but there's also nothing wrong with finding creative influences that aren't critically acclaimed classics. In fact, I think although you have to pay a bit more attention, if you can find your own little kind of creative influences that aren't on these lists of top 10 films that filmmakers should watch, then I think it's a bit more special. My name's Simon Cade, this has been DSLR Guide, and I'll see you next week.